Nuno conducts his first presser as Nottingham Forest head coach. But how did he do? And are you convinced that good times are ahead? Welcome to your Forest News. Good morning, evening, or night. Hope you guys are doing well, and welcome to your latest Nottingham Forest news. In today's video, we'll be covering off the key talking points from Nuno and how he did in his press conference. Is he sounding confident? But more importantly, is he filling you guys with confidence? Before we get started, as always, if you're keeping up with the content, let me know by hitting that like button. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new. Make sure you have your notifications on as well, because the content is going on thick and fast. We'll be having a preview with Statman John coming up shortly on the channel, as well as another video, basically part 2 to the one yesterday about Nuno's tactics and how they kind of infuse in with the Forest players and the team. You won't want to miss that one. And of course, we will have our match preview, where I have the unenviable task of predicting the first team. But we're here for the presser, so let's jump into it. All right, so presser done. And how did Nuno perform? Well, overall, my summary of it is I was very impressed with what he had to say. He spoke extremely well, and he said the right things at the right time. To be honest, I've said it before to you guys. I'm not going to hide behind it. I was finding Cooper's pressers a bit stale and samey-samerson. And it was just nice to hear a different take in terms of the press conference. We didn't hear about sticking to the plan. We didn't hear about, not shying away from it. We'll own it and all that stuff. So there's some new catchphrases to start to get attached to. And who knows, maybe get bored of them soon as well. But the presser started in the right way, of course, and that was Nuno praising Steve Cooper. Talked about what an amazing job he did at his time at Nottingham Forest, bringing them from the Championship up to the Premier League. And he praised him, and rightly so indeed. But what was nice to see as well was that he bigged himself up, reminding everyone that he's done a similar pathway, obviously not exactly the same, taking Wolves from the Championship up into the Premier League, and then, as we all know, lucky double sevens is exactly where he finished. He was also asked about the fans and does he need to win the fans over? And basically, if you read between the lines of that question that he was asked about, does he think the fans have taken to him yet? His answer was fantastic on this. He said, it's part of football. They will judge us on what we do, but what they will see is an organized team that will give it everything on the pitch. So he could have got trapped in that question. He could have said that, he expects the fans to automatically back him, etc. But in a way, he's kind of setting out the expectations, giving us a flavor of what to expect. And of course, not taking for granted that he will get their support and saying basically he will earn it. So I did really like that answer. Now, he's done a couple of interviews throughout the day, and I'm kind of going to mishmash a couple of them into this. In another interview and in this presser, he was asked about what he thinks the key problems are. And he's identified them quite easily. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket science to identify what's been wrong with Nottingham Forest, but he was straight at it, and I love it. He was asked, let me just find it for you. Nuno, what is the biggest challenge you face at Forest? What does he say? Play good and win. And that's exactly what I've been screaming for the last 18 months. It's all well and good to say it in a presser, but can he produce it on the pitch? I take great excitement in the fact that he's identified my two biggest gripes. Well, there are a few others, but it was good to see that. In the actual main presser, when he was asked about that question, he said there's a lot of things that need to improve. But what he liked was that the atmosphere was good within the players, and he was referring to the training session he had just taken, and that they were very engaged. And that, again, is a good starting point. If the players were feeling a bit disrupted, a bit all over the place after Steve Cooper had left, then he would have had to address that first. But it looks like cohesion is not a problem. And obviously something else he talked about was that everyone has a clean slate. I mean, you hear this with most new managers that come in, but he's addressed that. And basically, we've seen Worrall and McKenna back training with the first team. And, he's a man of his word on that because everyone has an option. Now, I definitely don't want to see Worrall starting, but at least he's getting a look in. And that will go down well amongst the rest of the team, in my opinion. So he was then asked about the Greek father. What were the conversations there? I think at some point someone mentioned, you played Olympiacos and beat them while you were at Wolves. Was that discussed? And he said, nope, because we got way more important things to discuss than that. And the expectation side of things, they didn't set big expectations. And I found this one quite interesting. We all know that it's come out a few times this year that the expectations from Marinakis are to try and push for top 10. But it seems that that's been down dialed a little because he's not kind of revealing what was said, because what his words were are that we are going to look at it from a day-to-day basis. And I think that's got to be the approach. It kind of feels like, in a way, we're in not a bad situation like when we were at bottom of the championship, but the expectation levels changed depending on what was happening on the pitch. Initially, we just wanted to avoid relegation. And it was like, well, how high up the table can we go? And then it was like, let's get to the Premier League. So within a season, we had 3 or 4 different expectations. And that's kind of how I felt that was coming across in this interview, in this presser, that the expectations will change depending on the scenario. We have to kind of wait and see. He's asked, what did you learn at your time away and your Premier League experience? And he basically said, you learn everything day to day, you learn. Wolves was different from Spurs. Spurs was different from Saudi. And he goes, in life, you're just going to learn every day. It's kind of just another generic answer on that one. So nothing too much to discuss there. But the interesting one was when they asked him if he needs to prove himself. And he says, you need to prove yourself every single day. There is constant pressure to improve. But he doesn't see it as proving or pressure. He sees it more about him being able to help the squad, help the staff, etc. And that was the overarching feeling I got from this interview, is that he almost sees himself as a consultant role. He comes in, discusses with the players what the problems are, and then gives them solutions. And that's something he said as well in the presser. And I think what I like about it is that he's not skirting around it. Obviously, for Forest to be in the position they are, issues and problems have happened. And he, as part of his job, has to come in to fix those problems. So it sounds like he's been watching videotapes all night. I think he said he got, he was either up till 4 or started at 4 a.m., going through all the games, making notes, looking at what wasn't working, and then looking to fix them, and then obviously passing that information across to the players. As always, as you would expect, Nottingham Forest, the transfer words comes up, and has he discussed how much money will be made available to him in January? And the answer was, he doesn't care about that right now. He cares about what's in the here and now. He's got 3 games before the window even opens. He's going to focus on the players he currently has here. Reading between the lines, basically he's saying he's going to assess what happens with these players, and then I guess decisions would be made. And that kind of was tied in with the question about the squad size. As we told you earlier on today, he likes to have a squad, should I say, of about 18 players. And at the moment, he's got a squad to pick from 30 plus another 14 that he could bring back in if he wanted. So I expect, and the signs were clear from him there, that he wants to compact that squad down. And I think we'll all be in agreement that that squad definitely needs to be thinned. Then talking about the Bournemouth game, obviously he said the usual managerial spiel that you hear from most managers. Every game in the Premier League is hard. He's expecting a tough game. No easy game in the league. We'll be facing a good team. Focus on that and we will compete well, he says. And then, of course, he had to be asked about Bolly and Morgan Gibbs-White. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because Dave himself thinks that him and Bolly will be absolutely fine. He said he was unsure about the relationship with Morgan Gibbs-White. But when he talked about Morgan Gibbs-White today, he talked about almost in a fatherly way that Morgan Gibbs-White, when he first had him, was 16 years old. But now look at him, he's a father and he's a man. I think that was a sign about him talking more about Morgan Gibbs-White's maturity. Because when you speak to Wolves fans, they will always tell you his eye wasn't always on it. There was off-field stuff going on, Hollywood stuff, etc. So it sounds like he's saying he's matured. And it sounds like as well, because of the rest of the things he said, that they are going to be really helpful because they already know his philosophy. They already know his identity and how he wants Forest to play. And they will help him in passing that across to the other players. So there was a lot of good stuff said, but those for me were kind of the key headline things that came out of it. And overall, I thought he spoke really well in all the interviews he did today. And there's no real alarm bell signs for me from anything that he has said. He seems to be talking openly and honestly. But the thing that was the best thing to see about Nuno today was that he was just smiling the whole time. He was smiling, talking to the press when he was doing the one-on-one interviews and everything. It was all done with a smile on his face. He comes across as a very relaxed kind of guy. And I think that's really important in terms of what we need at the club currently. Because if you look at Cooper, especially over the last few weeks, he looks stressed out. He looks tired. Looks like he hasn't had a good night's sleep. And Nuno is coming in fresh, smiley. And that's going to be infectious to the rest of the players in and around the ground. So overall, I was very happy with the presser. Now the talking needs to happen on the pitch. And I really am excited to see what team we end up with. So make sure you check out the video. If you're watching this later, then click on the link here somewhere. And I'll show you my predicted team and predicted formation and what I expect to see from Nuno in his first game this weekend. Hope you've enjoyed this quick video. Please don't forget to hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you're new. We'll see you shortly on the next video. Come on, you Reds.